What is going on, Macro Perspective peeps? We've got another great episode today and another great guest on today. Today, before we get into that, would love for you guys to go ahead and hit the like, comment, subscribe, and even share the pod. Today, I think you'd love to share this. I think this is going to be a great one for out there for many professionals and just people. Our guest today is going to bring the heat. With that being said, guys, I want to probably introduce you to Glenn Holmes. I've actually worked with Glenn a few years back. I kind of like in the middle of COVID. With my previous gym that I was working with, we were learning the Box and Burn Academy system and things like this. And it's a derivative of like a boxing, and he's the co-founder of that. And man, I just want to say, Glenn, that was some of the best like boxing teaching I've ever learned. And I was able to give that to like over, 100 plus members and teach that to a bunch of people. And I've had amazing pad holders since then and amazing like, boxing combos. And I'm not even a boxer myself. I'm, I'm a wrestler. So with that being said, Glenn, would you mind introducing yourself just a little for the audience and then kind of like what you're up to now, what you're excited about, my man?
Thanks, Seamus. Yeah, thanks, Marcos, for having me on. Pleasure to be here. Yeah, I remember when we did that course, it was a private course, I think, for a handful of coaches. And I remember you were the star student, Seamus. You were the standout guy. Your mitt work was really good. Yeah, so that's kind of how we met. So a little bit of background on me. I started a gym with Olympic bronze medalist Tony Jeffries back in late 2012, which turned into a gym called Box and Burn. Still going today in Santa Monica. We started that gym with pretty much nothing. It was just myself, Tony, his business partner in the gym, Kevin Watson, some dumbbells, some boxing gloves, and some mitts. And we started at the beach, actually, in Santa Monica, California, just doing boot camp classes. And at that time, in the kind of fitness industry, the fitness world and scene on the west coast of LA or the west side of LA, there was not really much going on. It was either soccer moms punching to the beat or guys spitting in buckets fighting, right? And we kind of bridged that gap. We brought like a little bit of, legitimate boxing background to it, and people were doing real combinations and real cross training that was like felt like you were in a kind of a boxing training camp. But at the same time, we made it fun and accessible to anybody. But it just blew up really quick. First 2-3 years, we exploded. Like classes, were packed, and it grew really fast. Got to 2 gyms within 2 years, and then in 2016, we decided to we had this idea to create the world's first kind of boxing fitness certification. There wasn't really anything around, and in the fitness industry, you've got all these huge companies doing all these different certifications, but there was nothing really for boxing, even though it was a really booming fitness trend at the time. And then since that time, we've traveled the world teaching live certification courses. We've certified over 3,000 fitness professionals through the online course and the live course. And proud to say we've like changed some lives with it and really impacted a lot of people who've gone from, desk jobs or careers they weren't happy with and kind of ignited their passion to pursue something they like and enjoy, and now got, thriving clientele, or they've opened gyms and done really well with it. So, yeah, that's kind of my backstory up until this point.
And Glenn, that does not sound like Seamus at all. He does not strike me as a star pupil. Just saying. I need to leave with that. And yeah, he's laughing over there.
I'm in the back of the class sleeping, man.
Yeah, definitely a back of the class kind of guy. But I think it's interesting. Kind of tying like a passion into like a business. Do you find that like everybody that came to these courses were like already like in the personal training space, or were they just like invested in fitness and then become wanting like to kind of figure it out? Like what's like kind of the client demographic you guys kind of cater to or see?
Yeah, mostly like I'd say mostly personal trainers, and across the board, like from novice personal trainers who are just kind of starting out, and they know like boxing is going to be great for my business, so they wanted to learn how to do it. No prior boxing experience, just get the kind of knowledge from the course and then try and perfect it over the weeks and months and introduce it into the sessions. We've had ex-professional fighters come through the course who are kind of at a crossroads post-fighting and be like, right, I want to get into the fitness industry now, and they know they've got experience and knowledge of the sport, but not necessarily the knowledge of how to coach it into general population. So that's kind of where we helped out. but yeah, the majority is like has been, fitness professionals, personal trainers, um, because what we did with the course and the curriculum, we didn't just give you a hands-on course. This is how you catch punches and how you teach it. That's like a huge part of it, with set systems and cues in a specific way that we perfected over the years with Box and Burn that led to its success. But what we wanted to try and do is get coaches to think about themselves as a business, give them some marketing knowledge at the courses, give them materials post course to then give them the confidence to go and post on social media or grow clientele or really think of themselves as a business. And I think that's kind of where we separated ourselves from other fitness certifications, rather than just we'll take your money, come and get the education for the weekend, see you later. It's like we built a big community and kind of like a real strong base of coaches that felt similarly and started to really think about this as a business. And I think they were surprised by that. I think they come to the courses thinking, or they go take the online course as well, thinking, I'm just going to learn how to teach boxing. But they come away with it with, 10 times much more than just the hands-on side of it too.
I mean, I can attest to that. Like Marcos, like when I was doing it with Glenn, like just one day with Glenn flipped how we were teaching our boxing classes, right? We call it like kick fit because the owner had a martial arts background and kickboxing background. But we learned how to teach people like off the street, Gen Pop, Marcos, learn combos, and not to get into the IP or the system, but like learn amazing combos, and actually weren't like the fake Instagram trainers that like did all this flashy stuff that like it looked cool, but there was actually no work being done. You're actually seeing Gen Pop people throw real combos, hold mitts appropriately, and to just add on to what Glenn was saying was like how to market it or change the system. It really started to teach us how to look at like the floor and go like, okay, how do we actually teach these classes to be the best freaking classes? And those classes were so packed, not because of just like, hey, look at how these people are doing with their combos and the social media look good, but like because it was just a freaking good class. Like it was high quality, man. Super, super high quality. I can't attest to any more than that. Yeah.
That's dope. I mean,
Yeah, we spent years trying to perfect the boxing fitness class. Like at Box and Burn, like it would be like, right, this is working, this is packed. How can we make it better? And for years we had like multiple coaches in a class, which cost a fortune, right? Because you paid multiple trainers. But we were definitely the best. I mean, it cost a lot to put it on, but people were getting pretty much like a private training experience in a class of 32 people. There was a coach everywhere they looked. Then over time, we tried to scale that down a little bit and perfect tweak the formats. But we always thought from the very beginning, from the minute that they get out of their car to the minute that they get back in the car, what is their experience? Not just like, when I'm in this class, am I burning so many calories, right? Like that's part of it, obviously. But we wanted them to have an experience, like they're greeted with a smile when they come in, that anxiety they might have when it's going into a boxing gym for the first time. What do we do? What do we say? Where are we standing? Where are we looking? Like the psychology behind that stuff was something that we had meetings on week to week and perfected. And then what's the attention to them during the workout? What's the attention to them after the workout? Are they getting shown to the door? Are they leaving with a good experience? Was it fun above everything else, right? Did they enjoy it? That was what we tried to perfect. And so then once we felt we'd kind of conquered those concepts, and that's when we decided to start, this is what we're going to teach to everybody else. These are the things that work, right?
yeah. And I think like the ongoing education or like hands-on application is, like you said, a lot of things that have been, missed over the years with regards to certifications as a whole. And while I think that it's like good to consistently educate yourself, like nothing beats application. So like
Right.
you're going to bring some unique questions to the table as you're going through it. So you guys like sharing that up and like being able to transition these people into the mindset of like, not only are you the instructor, like owner operator role, but like, what does it really mean to be an owner? And Seamus, who was it that we had on that? I think it was Ed, right? That was talking about like when he took the step away from being like the main instructor is when his business started flourishing, right?
Yeah, that's what he said. He said something along the lines of like, I was doing my team a disservice by always kind of middle managing, because it would be like a step forward but 2 steps back or something like that. That's kind of what he said.
Yeah, and like you're obviously positioning these people that are like enthusiastic about like obviously the boxing and the education around that, and then learning from people that are like highly skilled in the technical side of things. But like you just said, like running a business, operations, people skills, showing them to the door proper, like little touches that like kind of give it like almost a white glove feel for
Mhm.
whatever that Group X class, price range is. And I know it can widely vary based on like where a gym is located, for example. And like, do you guys like dive into that with them, like looking at surrounding areas and like do like market analysis too, or is it like what does that encompass with you guys?
Well, with the academy, it's more like one-on-one coaches. So, like that's something that I dial in on the coaches that I work with, one-to-one. Um, I think we were in an area in Santa Monica where there was high expectations and a lot of squeaky clean gyms that are high price points and a very high end, excellent experience. And our gym was kind of like a warehouse, like kind of a little grungier, but still like more kind of like you're here to work, right? But we had that kind of like excellent customer service approach at the same time. So it was attracting the kind of crowd that was like, I want to get in a workout. I'm not here to pause on Instagram for 5 minutes, right? I'm here to sweat and work out and enjoy it. So it had that kind of culture. We were really good at creating a culture of that. But I think that's something that like personal trainers can also create, whether if they're just working with one-on-one, is creating a niche and creating a culture and a community. And then the same goes for gym owners. That's like absolutely huge. And sometimes that takes a lot of coaching, a lot of trial and error. And like what you touched on, Marcos, understanding your market and your niche and who's coming through the doors, not necessarily creating what you want to create, but creating what's best for the market and the area that you're in.
So true. I mean, it took me well over a year when I like removed
Yeah.
myself from a company to then understand like what is actually my niche? Like what am I actually, who do I actually want to coach? What's my like, avatar? And
Mm-hmm.
um, it took an episode probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago to then realize it's like, oh, like it's not a male female thing for me. It's not
Mm-hmm.
a age thing for me, which are usually like two things that people look at like at point blank. I was like, I'm working with personally a lot of people that are, I'm going to call them like athlete 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
They are redefining what it feels to be athletic again. And I just feel like once I finally figured that out, it's like, of course I can help other general people as well. And I don't, shoo them away if I feel like we can work well together. But at the same time, it's not the people I'm trying to attract. Right. So
Right.
if someone like is a referral, they're like, this is a good fit. It's like, they might be, let's just see if their personality type meshes and if the system structure makes sense. But, I do have other coaches that are fabulous that are, eager to work with those particular people now too. And, it's not worth either one of our times, like
Mm-hmm.
it's so interesting how like having more business coach sense people come on the podcast have helped really kind of bring that to life. So I think you guys are probably obviously providing that value, which is, uh, like it's crucial, man. Like, I can literally give the example, signed a person last week and he's trying to get a spot on an NFL roster. And I'm like, dope, like that's amazing. And he's like, well, you do training plans too. I was like, yeah, but like it's not really my bread and butter. I'm the nutrition guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, we were talking about it. He's like, oh, I've really been trying to get in with this facility that's like elite. Like all the NFL players are in here and they know the training. He got in like literally the next day after they were like ghosting him for a couple weeks. So we kind of manifested that, which is dope. And I told him today, I was like, oh man, don't like, I'm sorry. I'm like, don't be sorry, man. Like you need that to get to the next level. Like you're trying to like go make a living in something that 0.0001% of football players ever get to do. You need the
Right.
best coaches available for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just recorded a Loom video on this for my coaches about niche and avatar, and it's just I'm trying to encourage them right now. They're trying to build clientele, and they're like, trying to figure it out. And I'm like, the first thing is like, let's find your niche, let's find your avatar. What is it? And the first thing they think of is like middle-aged women postpartum looking to lose weight, or 50-year-old dudes plus who play golf. And I'm like, right, stop thinking about age and gender and lifestyle factors. That's definitely a part of it. But look at your existing clientele right now. You might have like a teenager who's like in college for tennis or wrestling or whatever, right? Or at school. You might have a couple who are in the 40s who just had a kid who are looking to get back in shape. You might have a guy who's like 65 and just trying to drop, a ton of weight. So your demographics might be across the board, right? But then what's the common denominator across all of those? What are the kind of things that they're saying to you when they're giving you feedback or thanking you for a session? And it might be like, oh, you've helped me, get rid of anxiety. You've helped me build my confidence, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, boom, there you go. The common problem you're fixing now is a lack of confidence. That's something that you're hearing from across the board, across all clients, right? So then take that. That's kind of your niche straight away. Like I help people build confidence by doing bam, 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 these things, right? Now you've opened yourself up to no matter what demographic it is, but as long as people are looking to build confidence in something and you can show them that you can do that in these simple steps, or you give them a roadmap to doing that, that's when you're going to start carving out your niche, because it's like I help people build confidence. And then the people that have already got the confidence, that might not fit into what you do, right? But that's just something I was just thinking off the top of my head. It's like, what's the problem you're trying to solve, right? I think that's going to help you shape your niche rather than thinking about age ranges or demographics, because then you kind of pigeonhole yourself for no reason.
Yeah, and that's a good point of like looking at existing people and find the key influencers are the ones that kind of overlap, because I wasn't looking at that, it wasn't as obvious, but like you explaining it, and I've heard this like very similar thing articulated that you're saying, but it took so many like reps of people saying it for finding the click for me, because it's like, I just want to help everybody. And it's like, you can still help everyone, you can still help everyone, but like if you cast too wide of a net, there's going to be fishes swimming right through it. You're not going to catch anything. And I was like, oh, okay, like that's what marketing's actually for.
Right. Yeah, and that kind of steers into like the whole social media narrative too, like conversations I have about that. Like once you've kind of figured out your niche, that's going to help you create valuable content, right? Because if you know what problems you're trying to fix and you know how to fix those problems for whoever it is you're trying to fix them for, all of a sudden you've got a blueprint for content. It's like, I help, college kids get to Athlete 2.0, then, all right, how do you do that? Boom, boom. Your content is already kind of pre-built for you. I think a lot of coaches or people in the fitness industry are put off by social media or don't really want to go there or don't have the confidence to go there for a couple of reasons. Number one, they don't know their niche and their avatars, they don't know who they're creating content for, and it just becomes kind of a mesh of everything and more about them as a coach than the person on the receiving end of it and giving value. And the other thing as well, there's just I was having a conversation about this morning. There's so much pressure on likes and views and numbers. And it's just like, there's no point in me posting. It's only going to get 5 likes, like whatever. I've got my clients, I'm good, right? And it's that narrative of the pressure of volume is taking away the confidence from people who have got great skill sets, great knowledge, and help people on a daily basis from putting out content that could help 10, 20, 30 more people, and even and improve their clientele or boost their clientele remotely too. So, it's just little things like that. I think a lot of coaches kind of need that little guidance and help with too.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, Marcos does an amazing job with his content, like dropping bombs every day or every week. And it just kind of comes to show, like, I think Marcos and I'll just say it's taken like months to kind of harness in exactly what we were trying to like pivot into. But once Marcos kind of figured it out, I think his content just started driving that way. And you could just kind of see like everything he's curated just kind of talks about that. And like, that's what we're trying to do with this pod, or like what we're trying to do in our next steps. And I think it's important for a trainer to realize, like, if they're going to use social media, because it's such an easy way to have your own content and have your own content. If you're going to utilize it, like it's part, like, would you say, Glenn, it's like part giving good education. It's part giving good, like, education, adherence or whatever, but it's also part like you yourself, like you showing your life, showing a little bit of your brand a little bit. Because if you're going to say, hey, I'm athlete 2.0, like I do stuff that are like athlete 2.0 stuff, which I know Mark's all about. So I'll show myself doing workouts too. Yeah, it's not my client doing the workouts, but I'll show my client wins, you know, I'll show my client doing the nutrition, I'll show my client lifting, but I also show me
Yeah.
too. And I think that's an important part, because I think being a trainer nowadays, you don't have to be like, you know, men's health model looking kind of guy, but it's also at the same time, like you gotta live your product, right? You gotta, like, if you're gonna say you're a brand, if you're athlete 2.0, like we're saying, you gotta do the thing too, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think just dropping in, I would say probably hints of it, and just, yeah, I mean, you've got to obviously establish the credibility. So, like, if I'm putting out content saying, like, I'm going to help you become a really good boxing fitness coach and get loads of clients, but all my content is just kind of like not showing me, uh, not showing me boxing or coaching. It's just like, kind of, here's how you do it. That's good, but it's like, well, if that's mixed in with me actually living it and doing it and helping people on a daily basis and executing what I'm actually telling you to do, like, look, I'm actually doing it, that's putting the validity behind it, which is very important as well.
Yeah, like Seamus said, it's like sometimes the person you're going to resonate most with is the person you're hoping to become. And I'm like, you know, as I've been redefining like my own roles fucking quarterly, man, like I'm pretty sure everybody's kind of doing the same thing, especially if they have young kids, and especially if they maybe got into fatherhood at a slightly younger age than they were actually ready for, such as myself. And there's a lot of like new influences that are, you know, putting your mind in a million directions. And Seamus will attest to this. When he came out here 2 weeks ago, he's like, dude, your life is pretty chaotic, you know, like not in a bad way, but like, how do you control this? I was like, I mean, I'm always curating, you know, here's the thoughts, write it down, because I know I'm gonna have to go back to it. And sometimes like the muse, as you might so call it, that speaks to then creating the content piece, it happens at like the weirdest hours. It might be 6 a.m. It might be 9:30 at night. And sometimes it's just like, all right, like this is a weird flow state, but like let's freaking lean into it. And it's crazy, because I think, like you said, like people get uncomfortable with creating content, and it's a practice thing. It's reps. It's like, how do you get good at benching? How do you expect your bench to get to 225 and then for reps if you've never, you know, picked up a barbell? You know, it's
100%.
like, yeah.
And it's hard. I think it's hard for people to get reps at creating content because they overthink it too much. So they're like, they might shoot, you know, a video of them talking on camera or something, or them coaching or whatever the content is, and be like, they'll watch it back and be like, no, I don't like the way I look, or, oh, I said this wrong, and it's like, you would have got way more out of it if you just took that piece of content and got it out and done that 10 times. Because 10 times of doing that you're not happy with it, when you get to that 11th time, you're going to feel 10 times more confident than you were if you're on the second time. And people overthink it and they don't do it. And to go back to what you were saying, Seamus, in terms of like the ratios of the styles of content, there's way too many coaches and fitness people putting out 90% of, hey, everybody, look at me. I can bench press this. I can do this. I can do that. And it's all about them. And they're not growing and they're not doing anything because they're not giving value to people. It's too much the other way. I'm almost like, I just want to give you free education and free help on my Instagram. And just, you know, I want my Instagram to speak to you so that you read it. You're like, I want to know. Yes. Okay, do that. That's how you do that. That's what, right? And then occasionally it's like, oh, I do this, by the way, and oh, here's me doing this, right? Just sprinkle that in. And I think people get it kind of twisted the other way around.
I got to work on that a little bit. I've been posting my stories, like
you're posting selfies every day.
Basically, selfies me like in the mirror. Marco's gonna test. Like, you can check my stories. I'm not hiding. I got to work on that just because, like, yeah, you know, I think we're giving a lot of value for sure with the pod, right? I think a lot of people have resonated with it. The podcast, and then the main channel, and then some of our content. But I definitely do, and I agree. I think you could definitely do that style of educating. But you're right. I think going back to your first point, you have to niche down, because if you're just kind of saying things to the camera to be general, the person behind it, the trainer, the coach, whoever it is, they're probably just kind of reading from a prompt. Like they're probably reading from like, hey, Chat GPT, give me 20 like, fitness ideas. Like, and as much as like Chat GPT can be usable and all that, like it's just a good prompt to like have there. Speaking
Hmm.
about that from like personal experience, because you're talking, for example, like we've been using Athlete 2.0, it's like, well, hey guys, this is what I do on a day to day. For example, I'll use Marcos. Like as much as Marcos's life was chaotic watching him last week, what was so great about his Athlete 2.0, quote unquote, was the fact that like he's so nutrition focused as a nutrition coach that like he coaches himself. Like we were talking about, like, all right, cool, so we just did our workout, I'm gonna get this, then I'm gonna have this meal, it's gonna be this much protein, and we're gonna do this. Like everything about him was, this is a performance athlete, even though like he's being a parent, he's cooking these meals, and I'm like, this is Athlete 2.0. It's how do you get through 24 freaking hours, and all that, and I love that way. So yeah, no, I totally get the whole, got to get the ratio down, got to be about it, but also at the same time, yeah, keep educating, keep doing the thing, and deliver value and stuff.
Yeah, you don't even need to be an expert on like tons of stuff. Like if there's one thing that you know and you know it pretty well, then just run with that. Like I say at our academy courses, I do like a keynote in the afternoons, and I'm like, being a good coach isn't knowing like it isn't about like knowing a million things and just being able to have all this amazing knowledge, right? If there's one thing that you know and you're brand new to this, but you've spent 6 months like and you've got it dialed in, it's just about how well you can communicate that one thing, and that's all social media is. It's just how well can you break things down and put it in a digestible format that connects with people. And if you only know one or two things, but you can put that into bite-sized chunks, then great, run with it.
Yeah, and it's actually really hard to do something in 60 to 90 seconds or 15 if you're like trying to like ruffle feathers, like, and it's all like
Mm.
part of like the strategy, and like it's actually like to me, I kind of now think of it like a giant video game, but like you actually have like people aren't NPCs, they're actually like real human beings that will likely
Yeah,
interact, and you can look at these like metrics of your own data, and like you're like, that was a flop, damn, I thought that was like the most eloquent one I've ever done. And then the one that's like, again, the almost throwaway video, like I never throw away things anymore, even takes, because I'll watch back like two or three of them and I'm like, huh, the first one was it, like, um, and or send it off to a third party person that like helps you understand, like, actually the one that was the most natural was the one you probably thought sucked, and it's just,
yeah,
it's little things like that. And I think in this journey for both of us, like understanding, like we talked about this with an actual content creator, it's like, know your medium, like
right,
know how you're going to articulate a message best and which ones you actually like want to work on, because some people do like more long form written or just short form written, or they like being in front of the camera, or they want to be in front of the camera but they're not good at it yet. And it's like, as you're building those skills up, you start seeing people or styles that like you resonate with, and you're like, oh, I want to emulate that in a
right.
way. And I had one of those guys. We actually had him on the podcast. It was Carter Good, and I was like, dude, I'm fanboying over here because this is like a full circuit moment for me. When you were crushing it probably 6-7 years ago with like, again, like the carousels and the infographics and all this stuff, like I was like, I don't even know how the hell you're doing it, like every day,
Yeah,
And then I tried to do one post. It took me like an entire week, and then
yeah,
now the times have changed, and it's cool to see that, like, all right, like people that have influenced you can, they're people at the end of the day, man. It's like, it's been so humbling to like hear people's story about like how those things came to be. And again, like kind of carving a lane and then like readjusting constantly, because something that gave you satisfaction 6-7 years ago, it's probably changed today. um,
oh,
and
totally.
yeah, like I don't think people really understand what it means to be coached. Like if you were to describe that in like like an elevator pitch, what would you describe like being coached by you guys would be?
Um, that's a great question. I've never even thought about that. If someone is coached by me, I like to think that um, I mean, I can explain what I try and impart, what their experience is.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have to ask them, but if I was to guess, I would say that I would try to give them a sense and a feel of confidence and safety that they're learning things that they probably thought they knew about, that I've opened their eyes on, that they to show them a whole world, that there's more, or something that they didn't know anything about or didn't even think about. I've tried to open a door and show them, like, this is an essential, like, you've got to go all in on this or this, right? So I think people come into working with me, whether it's through the academy or, you know, one-on-one coaching, and they're gonna I'm gonna try and expand their mind a little bit, if that makes sense. Like, I think they come in thinking, like, if it's a private client with boxing, for example, I'm personally training them. I think they think, oh, I'm gonna go and get a boxing session, and then, you know, a year, 2 years into the relationship, like, they've learned so much about themselves, and they've learned so much about how to eat properly and how to live, and the importance of sleep, and, you know, just everything. And the next thing, I'm at their birthday party, or they're taking me on a tour with them or whatever, right? And I don't think that they came into that thinking, I'm going to build a lifelong relationship with this guy. Whereas I do, like, anyone that I take on, I'm like, I want to build a lifelong relationship, and I'm going to give you everything I've got. So I think I try to give confidence and safety from that standpoint, because, you know, I see this as a long game. And then, I think just trying to open people's minds a lot. And I'm not saying that, like, I know everything about everything. Far from it. We all learning as we go. But just from my own experiences, the things I've seen work and not work, I'm going to give you everything that I've got. And hopefully that opens some doors for you. And I think for the most part, it does. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, yeah. You basically just said coaches are cheat codes. I'm gonna give you my anecdote of like my experience, right? And, you know, here's some ideas that you're mulling over. Like, pick one and try that. Pick the other, try that. Like, and report back. You know, like, how do you feel? How's the success? And, you know, like you said, instilling confidence. Like, I mean, it's really what coaching is at the end of the day. Is like, I mean, as we've together, Seamus and I embarked on our master health coach journey, we're learning a lot about ourselves, but also how to be more, quote, client-centered versus coaching-centered. But, like, you have to, like, kind of throw a little bit of that anecdote in there so that you can kind of commiserate if there's like a you know, that ebb. I think the ebb literally means like the downturn, right? And it's been really cool, because it's like, oh, like, maybe you were doing it like innately, but like to actually kind of put like a system behind it, you're like, okay, like having some different strategies to pull from, or, you know, tools in the toolbox, as my mentor used to say, RIP Travis. That was really it. He's like, trust me, bro, like, you're going to want all these things. You just don't know it yet. And I was like, dude, come on. Like, nah, like, no way. And sure enough, as of last week, I end up finishing a certification that I'm like, oh shit, like, that's what he was doing, you know, and really trying to build a practice behind, because that's where he started to really find his lane and niche even more. So, you know, I mean, do I think I'm going to be maybe as good as he is? No, but I'm honestly doing that one kind of as a personal, like, enlightenment journey to understand, like, where he was trying to go to, but then also bring it forward to certain potential clients. Cause I know that, like, functional medicine diagnostics are, you know, they're expensive. Let's put it that way, you know?
Yeah.
But for the right client, you know, hey, we can run these, and then we can get you, you know, some sort of resolve or some sort of a, like, objective measure that then potentially leads you down your right path. Right. And it's no longer just X's and O's anymore. It's like coaching the individual, and, you know, trying to just be a catalyst in everybody's life. Right.
I think you touched on it a little bit there, but systems, that's absolutely huge. Like, the thing that I work on with people I work with is just giving them systems. Like, systems is crucial, and a lot of people don't have them. And the reason why they can't get to where they want to get to is because they don't have systems. They think they're doing everything that they can, but it's not systemized. So it's not efficient. So then they're spending too much time in the wrong areas or whatever it might be. I've actually got it on this whiteboard right behind me at the top, like, systems right there, circle, and it just stays there forever.
I love it.
And that's kind of what the academy was about. Like, when people came to the courses, like, we're going to give you a system of how to teach somebody boxing who's never been before. They've got no boxing background or boxing experience. You're going to have a set system of what to teach, what order, what to say, almost like a script with exact cues to use at the right times, and it's going to work, right? We've seen it work, so we'll give you that system. And that system's helped, tons of coaches have success. And then the coaches that I work with, like on the business end, giving them systems on here's how you should systemize, like, your content creation, right? This is, you put this here, you do this, you do it in this order. That's your system done, right? Here's your system for when you get a lead or somebody's interacting with you on Instagram. You do this, and then you do this, and this, right? And it's just, everything's just completely systemized, and that's what I help them with, is just build out those systems, and they just feel, whoa, like I get a new lead or a new client, or somebody wants to work with me or whatever. It's like they know exactly what to do, rather than just kind of like guessing and stabbing in the dark, and it might fall through the cracks or it drops off, right? The chances of success go like this as soon as you're systemized and organized with exactly how to handle anything that comes in.
That's super powerful. Marcus, go ahead.
Nah, I was gonna say, I think Seamus can attest to this. So, like, I was feeling some sort of way, he was feeling some sort of way, because we're like, we really just need to dial in these effing systems collectively as a collaborative unit.
Yeah.
And like peace of mind after we sat down and put some deep thinking as a team together was like, okay. And then everything just like literally in the last week, it just like gangbusters. We're like, oh wow, like okay, the system like that was in the head is finally like on paper.
Yeah.
Paper then led to like, again, the back end stuff being created and curated. And then again, like you again, like I think Seamus did a good job of saying good, better, best, right? And like ever since he brought that up to the table, which was like the first like 2 minutes of like of that meeting, it was wild. It was cool, because now I'm thinking that was like, okay, what would be good? What would be better? What would be like the best case scenario?
Yeah.
Like what Seamus, where did you get that from?
That's actually from a previous mentor of mine, Chad Skadursu. Shout out 168 Fitness, probably where I got my starting point, managing the facility, front desk, everything in the fitness world. But he would do that with me. He'd be like, all right, this month, what's like your financial goal? Good, better, best. What's your client close rate? Good, better, best. What's the amount of, whatever. And he would do that with like, he'd ask me about like, what about your grades? Good, better, best. Like he asked me a bunch. We had always had to sit down every month. And I think, having a good, better, best and starting with that in mind, and then kind of breaking it down into the numbers that you need to see for your business or whatever, always kind of just resonated with me, because I think, Glenn, you might see this with the people that you're mentoring one-on-one, where it's like, dude, I need to hit this number financially. And like they get hung up on that number, and let's just say they're killing it, but they're not hitting that number. They just feel like a total failure or something like that. And I felt that way before, until I kind of was like, no, this is good. Oh, we got a little bit better. Oh, here's the best kind of result. And sometimes you'll blow that out of proportion. And no, I really love, like Marcus, and I really loved like what Marcus did, because he put kind of like what you're saying, like pen to paper, from head to paper, like these systems. And I was like, I literally like had a aha moment. Like after years of coaching, I was like, oh shit, another aha moment. Like if we can do this in this system, dude, we'd be on fire. And like, I just like, I don't know, like as soon as that happened, that next week, I don't know what it is. I just like stuff happened, talking about leads, boom, all this stuff. And I was just like, it just like it's been like 7 days, and I just like felt like the last 7 days was like a sprint, but like a good kind of sprint, if that makes sense. And it just clicked. When do you see that with your coaches, Glenn, the ones that you work with, when it clicks, what finally happens with them?
I can think of a couple of guys straight away. Like they just kind of get it from the start, but they didn't know what to do. So I'm like, oh, when this happens, say this, do this, right? And we'll build a system so you do that every time with ease, right? And then it's just like a light bulb, like, oh, got it. And then with your content, think this, and this, you're going to do this, give them all the systems they need to do, and they just go and execute. So basically I'm just giving them the blueprint, and then they've got the drive, they've got the passion to go and do it. That's when they start to see results. They start to see more traction on Instagram. They know how to deal with new followers and new direct messages coming in. They know how to go out and get new clients in person. They're just driven and motivated and passionate. So that I just give them the kind of blueprint, and then they go and run with it, and then they see the results. Some other guys, I'll give them the blueprint, but they still need that kind of education. Like, okay, what is this, right? And I'm like, well, when this happens, you've now got the system to do this. And the reason there's a lot more why involved and a lot more explanation. Like the reason why we're doing this is because, remember you said to me at the beginning, you wanted 5 new clients in the next 2 months. yeah, okay, well, we've got to do all of these steps first before you can start to think about 2, 3 new clients, because you don't have the systems in place to get that going yet. So it kind of comes back to like a couple of things, like do they have the drive and the passion and the time to just go and execute what I give them? But the thing about systems is that it does take time. As you guys know, you were just talking about it, because you've got to be out there doing, and systems is internal work, right? So it's just like, how long do I spend on this stuff? And the more I have to go out and still train clients a couple of days a week, and then if I'm in the office, I'm on Zooms with clients. So I'm like, when do I get to work on my systems, right? But it's just nature of entrepreneurship. We find the time, and I think Marcos, you touched on it earlier. It's like might be like 9 o'clock at night, and my kid's on the Xbox way too late, and I'm like, I'm just going to sit here and learn some stuff and start working on my systems for an hour right before I go to bed.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think the guys that just kind of see what you give them and it clicks, that's what's going to happen. Then they run with it and they start to see a little bit of traction and results. Some others just need a little bit more of explanation and guidance, and it takes a little bit longer. But I guess that's the same with everybody, you know.
Yeah. I tell Marcos and the rest of the team, like, I'm like, I get inspiration like in the weirdest times. So I'm gonna send you like 50 texts. Disregard them until you feel ready.
It's so funny because like our assistant will do that. Will fire off messages to me. I'm like, fuck, I feel like I need to reply right away. I was like, wait a minute, like chill out. Like I can do it in like 20 minutes when I'm not driving or some shit. Like, cause it's like everything feels so like immediate. Like if it's not getting done, it's like, no. Like make sure you're in the right head place so you can answer the questions accordingly, and or like make sure like you have enough time to also like reply for a few seconds or get your thoughts out there like fully. Yeah, like again, that's like part of our system is like, hey, if you have like a stroke of genius, just throw it in the group chat. We'll get to it the next day. Especially like for me, like, you know, I try to like now wind down my phone time by like 7 p.m. And there's Seamus and Rachel still messaging and getting all motivated for the next day. And that's like the first thing I wake up to is this like stream of like, conscious feed. And it's like this living, breathing thing. But like you touched on something, Glenn, like the external and then like the internal, right?
Mm-hmm.
External being like, let's say like the outbound stuff you're doing like with people in the flesh, and then internal is like back end systems and or content curation, thoughts, ideas. Like how many of these people that you're working with are going in it alone, and how many are like trying to build a team? Do you like ever recommend them getting somebody to help, or do you guys like offer those solutions to people? Like what does that look like?
Yeah. Most of them are alone. Yeah, they're a one-man band trying to do it themselves, and they're trying to create content, edit videos, edit pictures, put it up themselves, write the caption, train people, write programs, everything, right? So one of the first things I do when I bring people on board is I'm like, right, I'm going to give you the systems to go and hire a virtual assistant. We're going to hire a video editor, and we're going to hire a graphics person. And I do that through a specific website. I give them the template job descriptions, the systems, how to onboard them, what to look for when you're hiring and interviewing these people, and that's all like through a website where they're getting really cheap virtual assistants for like $3 to $5 a graphic, maybe $10 a video edit, something like that. So it's pretty affordable for most coaches at that point. And then I build out a whole system of this is how you get your content to them. This is what you're going to do for editing. This is, like just basically build that whole content creation system. But yeah, one of the first things is getting some help on board for content, because I think when I first tell them, like, I need you to be like posting up, your story needs to be on 24/7, and you need to be putting out at least, 2 or 3 reels a week, and maybe a couple of still graphics as well on top of that. It's got to be planned, obviously, but I think they immediately think like, I don't have time to do that. Like, where am I going to get the time to do that? It's like, all right, well, here's the systems to get help on board. But yeah, getting a graphic designer and a video editor on board pretty quick is essential.
So funny because it's like indirectly we figured that out very quickly, because I'm like, I don't want to sit here and write fucking show notes as much as like I know we need to comb through all this, and I'm like, all right, well, InStep's like a job for somebody. And then the next person that we've been using, same thing, it was like a buddy, and it's like, all right, cool, like, do you do video editing? He's like, actually, he hit me up, and then I realized like, oh shit, like here's a thing, you know, and then now we're like, we have somebody in mind for another role that's like, again, somebody that's just experimenting with stuff. And like, I think as you start doing it, and when you know how much time you personally sink into just like one reel edit, right? Let's say it's like a recipe, which usually goes gangbusters. It usually gets like the highest viewership, all those things, right? Like it's important for like spreading, like, you know, your interpretation of a recipe, but it's also the most time consuming one because no one knows how to make it like how you would want that touch. So like there are certain ones that you still have to probably do, but a lot of the other ones can definitely be like subbed out and like kind of fit the branding and the narrative. But like, yeah, I would totally recommend people, you know, looking to do something online or, you know, hybrid style where
Mm-hmm.
you do need to build a team really quickly and understand like that's part of like your overhead immediately because I mean, I've done it. You burn yourself out very quickly
Yeah,
because you're
totally.
just like, I'm like, now I'm just living on my phone and or
Yeah.
in front of these screens, and it's just a whole nother level of like things. So like, I think that you say that that's like kind of like step number 1 and 2 for people. I think I align big time.
Yeah. For me personally, the only platform that I put in where I have a whole team working on is YouTube, just because it's more in depth, it's longer format. There's a lot more scientific back end to it for it to be effective. So I've like a team who do all that. As far as my Instagram, I'm like kind of just get the reel up, quick piece of value, get the graphic up, quick piece of value. I don't overthink Instagram so much as I used to when that was my main platform. But like now, I try and put a ton more effort into YouTube. So that's kind of where I personally use the team. But I think if you're got a small following on Instagram, that's going to be your main platform for now. It's pretty essential to have some help with that.
Yeah, and I've come to the conclusion that I don't really use Instagram for growth or for leads anymore. I use it for existing people and value that I want them to listen to maybe in a different voice than I had on our one-to-one call. So almost like this influence of like a parasocial network where they're constantly exchanging information or getting ideas from, you know, me, their coach. And, you know, hopefully they're like, then they message you like, oh my God, like I didn't think of it that way. Why didn't you say this on a call? And you're like, oh, okay. Like, and then you're down this like loophole rabbit wheel. Like you're just like, okay, like perfect. Like you I think when I flipped the script into really just like leaning into the people I'm already serving, it made it far easier to create things versus like, I'm going
Trying
to
to
use
go.
this to
Yeah.
I don't want to like, I'm going to use this to attract people.
Yeah.
You know how many leads I've gotten from Instagram over the years? Like probably 2, right? So like, I'm like, and I'm like, but I have fun with it. And I know that it's important because if someone's like, well, if I want to get your number and like talk to you, it happened the other day. Someone was like, oh yeah, that person went right to your Instagram page, looked at those things. It's all there existing. And that's like, again, more of like where the referrals then start to happen. But back in the day, it was like, you know, last post was like 2 months ago. And it's like me and my son. And then it's like, oh, does this guy even coach anymore? So I think it's just like constantly staying like relevant. So these indirect leads that may not actually show up on a metric that you looked at a week later. It's like so weird, but like it can provide a lot of value, but it might be 90 days, 120. Like it's hard to like really quantify it like on that particular platform. Whereas like you said, YouTube is like a whole nother animal. They're all different animals. Like a video that does well in one place might flop somewhere else, and then you feel bad about yourself. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Like it's Let's
Gotta
back to the drawing board.
Yeah, no, exactly. I love this conversation on the leads, and I know that you teach, Glenn, you teach the guys that you're working with, the people that you're working with, hey, like this is how we capture and stuff like that. I'm wondering, you know, part of the process of getting those 5 people that you kind of talked about, right? You've got them there. Do you kind of cover sales with the people? Do you kind of cover like, hey, this is how the conversation goes. This is how you close people. Is that something you cover as well?
Huge. That's probably the biggest thing that they learn, because a lot of people in fitness don't have a sales background or a sales brain or interest in sales, because they're two completely different worlds. It's like the reason we're in fitness is because we don't want to do sales, right? We don't want to be sitting at a desk job doing sales. So that's kind of the reason why we're in the industry in the first place. But When I was in England, my first ever job at 17 years old, fresh out, because we finished high school at 16. We're not like in America, you go to school till what, like 25 or whatever it is.
I was there until 24, so yeah.
yeah. So like we're thrown in at the deep end. If we don't want to do college, we can get out. So at 17 was my first job, and it was just a sales job, like part time. So I kind of got my chops up pretty quick with that. It's in my family too. My granddad was a good salesman in his day or whatever. So I think I've got a little bit of like natural inkling into sales techniques, and I think where the two worlds kind of mesh is to be a good coach and do well with clientele. You have to have emotional intelligence, right? And you have to believe in what you're doing. And I think sales is exactly the same thing. The guys that are poor at sales or give sales a bad rap, or the cheesy salesman are the guys that don't believe in what they're selling, and they don't have like great emotional intelligence. They're rubbing people up the wrong way, and they're just too pushy. And that's kind of what people generally think of when they think of sales. So the thing that I work on with coaches, lead generation. We do use Instagram a lot for that. There's a lot of things that you can do to be successful with that. It does take a lot of time and a lot of organic work. But when we do start getting some leads, we build out a whole system. I give them sales scripts. If objection handling, closing, all that kind of stuff, I'm coaching them on that stuff. And just recently, a guy I coach who's out in Texas, he's like, "Oh, my barber put me in touch with this guy who wants to do some boxing training." I was like, "All right, did you book the call?" He's like, "Yeah, book the call." Right, okay. I did an emergency Zoom with him on how the call should go. If you hear this, this is what you're going to say. If you hear this is what you're going to say about all the closing techniques, the objection handling, and everything. And his mind was blown. He's like, "I just got off the call. He bought a 10-pack," and I'm like, "There you go, it works." And it's just, and I'm not coaching anything like, like typically like salesy in a way. I'm just like, all right, just have emotional intelligence and just have conversations. And if this is the reservation, put the reservations at rest. And if this is the problem and this is a pain, explain how you can solve it. It's not rocket science, but it's just things that people don't necessarily think of when they're like on a sales call or they've got someone that's interested or whatever. So, like sales is a huge part of it. Yeah, definitely.
I've learned that a lot. Like sales and coaching are pretty much the same. There's a little bit of a difference though, right? Like coaching, you're kind of giving a lot. Like, hey, like we're kind of going there, and I'm learning a little bit more about client-centered coaching, about asking a lot. And I think client-centered coaching is kind of like sales. You gotta ask the right questions. So you're right. The reservations are kind of work. The objections are then. It's just a conversation. I think, for me, I was scared of sales for a long time. I remember the first time, mentioning Chad again. I remember the first time he left the country for almost 3 months. I was managing the gym and I had to do the sales, and I was like selling these packs of like almost up to 10K, and like I was like having these strategy sessions and like these things, and I was like scared shitless as an 18-year-old, like 19-year-old, like trying to like, oh, I have to sell. But I think I realized like after a long time, it's like, no, like it's just a conversation really. And you're just trying to figure out what the person needs in front of you.
Exactly.
And sometimes I think money plays a role in that, where it's like, oh, I have to do this. So like, how do you do that? How do you get people that are like hungry and driven, Glenn, that are like, I need to make this much money. They're hungry, they're driven, they have like good everything, but like they need to realize like you don't be forceful. Like think of the person in front of you. How do you handle those people?
So say that again. Like, how do they? I'm trying to understand
like people that are just like, they're so money driven, like it's like bottom line driven, like I gotta hit these financial goals, right? Like I've seen that before, even in myself, where it's like the conversation is just so like close, or like ABC, always be closing or die, kind of thing. Like it's just hardcore sales. Like how do you speak to your team? Like, hey, like look, like if I know you're trying to sell, I know you've got to put food on the table and you still got to do things, but this is how you should do it in a more like this way. That's not like, hey, give me money.
I just encourage the guys to be like, or the girls as well, to be focused on being the best that they can be in terms of like the product that they're offering, being confident delivering the product they're offering, understanding the pain and struggles of the people that they're going to be working with, and communicating how they can solve those pains and problems, and taking the people that they're working with on a journey that's fun and inspiring to hit their goals, right? So if they just focus on that, the the net result of that is more clients and more money and growth and more, you offering more value. The more value you can offer, your rates will go up, your clientele will go up, the quality of your clientele will go up. So it's just, don't focus on, it's like you're jumping like 5 steps ahead to focus on the money, when if we just keep chipping away at these steps like this and we're going like this, you'll get there. So there's a lot of patience involved as well, but if you just focus on delivering value and being the best you can be, then you will get there, definitely. And it's just about giving value at the end of the day. I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you for that message, because I think, I think the message nowadays, you can see it on social media. It's like, coaches make this much today. This client did this.
Yep.
So it's like, thank you for the real reality check, because that's something that Marcus and I talk about too. It's like, you get a lot of this stuff that like all these agencies are doing. It's like, yeah, maybe they did do it, but it's like, it might be leading people down the wrong path and not actually serving at the highest level that they can serve. They're serving just to fill their pockets. So I appreciate that.
I think those agencies and stuff like and coaches or that kind of messaging, I'm sure there's been results like that. And I touched on a guy that I work with who's accelerated really quick. Whereas if you do these things, but you've got to have certain things in place already, like a good amount of experience. You've got to have a good marketing brain. You've got to have a degree of emotional intelligence. You've got to have the tech skills to put the systems in place. You've got to know how to navigate your way around a laptop and talk on camera, whatever it is. So there's multiple skills needed in the first place. And I'm sure those agencies bring on coaches or whoever who've kind of got a decent skill set across that board anyway. And then they just they get that extra bit of knowledge from those agencies, and they just skyrocket and they earn a ton of revenue very quickly. And they've got those case studies to go off. But I just think applying that across the board, that 100% of the people that go with that are going to have the same result, that's just, that's never going to happen, because everybody's at different levels and different abilities,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I feel like you're kind of articulating here, like the money's going to be a byproduct of just like the hard work and like
Yes.
kind of going into the weeds. And again, like I kind of use this question with clients and people. If I snap my fingers tomorrow and you got the result, what does it look like for you? And immediately there's a reframe of identity. There's like things that they know that they need to be doing that they're not. And like, I mean, it's no different here. It's like, as soon as you get that, like buy into the first thing, the first stepping stone, like the rest of it can kind of flow a little more organically. And
right.
I mean, man, like it's like you just said, it's all like, essentially coaching is a sales psychology tactic, because each week you're effectively selling somebody on like their mission statement and their goals. At least that's how I view it. It's like, all right, like what am I selling this person on today? Like, what am I bringing to the table to bring them value? Where are the pain points? Where are the bright spots? Where are we at? And,
but that's what keeps you in the game. Like if you go into sessions not thinking that, the clients will drop off. Like you've got to treat every session like it's kind of like the first session again,
Absolutely. I mean, and you know what? My calls might be longer than most coaches. I don't care. I mean, what's an extra, whatever the hourly rate is, like if that person got so much value on it and I don't have to worry about trying to like, oh God, I got to make sure I'm posting this so I can get one new lead this week. Like I'm much happier and those people are getting so much more value out of it. And, again, like when they get to that final end state and 20 of their friends and family got together for the reunion, like what the fuck happened to you? Like in a positive way. That's all the validation a coach should really be searching for, and not like quote the next lead or whatever. And like, there's been so many of those amazing moments with so many people in the last year for me that it's been far more rewarding. And it's like, now I can put my efforts toward the other thing I'm really passionate about. And the only way that like, to me personally, my own identity mission works is piggybacking off of what you mentioned first, community, and driving that home and trying to be, a figurehead in something completely new and different. And like, I'm viewing money as not necessarily the end goal. It's more of a, I'm exchanging this to people that are, giving me new value in places I didn't know I need. And I mean, it's been far more enjoyable. I think that's the biggest thing. Like don't go into this because you're going to have, 6-figure months or 5-figure
Yeah.
months. Go into this because like there's like another core identity thing that you've found. And it's funny because one of my clients was like, hey, like to message me on this call, goes, hey, something you said on our call last week was just been a catalyst this week. And I was like, she wrote down core values. And I was like, what? I asked that question, like, what are your core values right now? Because they're ever changing. I know you're about to go into this new position, this new role. I'm talking about it for a while now. Like when that changes, like what are we going after? Because it's gonna pivot. I feel like for everybody, this is just my trend is every 3 months, every quarter, it's something new. And I'm just trying to like anticipate it now. Like, and again, like it used to like derail me big time. And nowadays I'm like, all right, I already expect it. I know it's coming. Like, what is it? What's the big one?
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, I think that like the best coaches are really focusing on their own personal growth. Like you said, finding more time to invest in themselves, like selfishly enough hours in the day so that like the rest of your hours are not you scrambling to the gym to go get a workout or scrambling to go like make this highlight post. It's more about like, hey, I got my stuff done so I can focus on my people's, and then from there everything is resolved.
Totally.
Yeah.
Glenn, man, it's an hour. We're on it. We could keep going if you want to, but to be honest, want to be thankful of your time and things like that. This conversation.
Yeah, I can talk about this stuff all day.
This conversation went by real fast. Go ahead, Marcos. Ask a few more, and then we'll lock it in.
I do have one more because I know like in our notes from our producer, she mentioned for you like biohacking space, and I'd be remiss if I don't ask that question because I know that's like also near and dear to Seamus's heart. Like in terms of biohacking, like like if that's like an interest of yours, like what are the key components and ingredients you're looking for out of that?
I think a lot of people get mixed up that like biohacking, supplementation, that kind of stuff. You're gonna feel something different, or you're gonna feel like amazing or whatever. They're looking for an effect, right? And to me, biohacking, I just kind of do everything that I think I need to do to make sure that everything just runs smooth. Like I need to make, and when I say everything, I don't want any aches and pains. I want to be able to move my body how I want to be able to do it. I want to sleep really well. I want to have good energy. I want to feel on point as much as possible. I want to get stuff done without any issues. I just want everything to just feel normal, right? And the higher productivity of your lifestyle, you're on Zoom all the time and you're out coaching people, you're being a father. If your lifestyle is really hectic, having everything run smooth you're going to need a little bit of help. And that's, supplementation, biohacking, that kind of stuff is going to help keep things smooth and help you stay on top of stuff. I think if you're sat at a desk 9 to 5 and you're working for somebody else and that makes you happy, then you probably don't need to biohack as much as somebody who's just, training all the time and putting their body through the ringer. But each one's different. But I think for me, to answer your question, I think I guess I'm really into nutrition just to try and make sure everything is just smooth all the time. I'm constantly oil changing myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I feel like that's an interesting take on it because you're like, it's not so much just like getting to this optimization zone that like Lion's Mane or all these other nootropics or whatever can get me to. It's like you're kind of like constantly self-auditing in a way to like make sure that like, yeah, this is an ache and pain. What's the result of this and how do I correct it? But it's like I feel like everyone has a different definition of a lot of things. Your definition of biohacking is a little bit different than Seamus's here, and just like different people's approaches with nutrition. Kind of again, it's all anecdotal. That's why I wanted to ask the question because I feel like
I just don't want age to affect me either.
Yeah, don't, right? How old are you?
I mean, it's working because I feel like I look all right for 65. So,
Oh.
But yeah, like the older you get, I mean, the generic narrative is like, oh, my knees are starting to ache, or I starting to get lower back pain, or I can't go to the gym as much as I used to. It's like I just want to be the kind of person that's like, nothing ever changes. As I get older, I can still work out, I can still run, I can still do everything that I want to. I want to be able to do that until I die, right? So I'm just And so far, so good. It's just by looking after myself and putting the right things in my body at the right time, getting enough sunlight, getting enough sleep, doing all the things that I'm supposed to do. I don't feel like age is affecting me at all. Like I feel exactly the same as I did when I was 20. So I'm like, it feels like it's working.
Easy enough.
Love that.
Easy enough.
Longevity approach, man.
Yeah.
Seamus, got one last question and then wrap it up.
No, I feel like I got a lot here today. I really just want to make sure Glenn get what he wants out there. Glenn, is there anything specific out there that you want to tell the audience, like a course or something that came out, or where they can find you, how to work with you? If you can just kind of share that, and we'll wrap things up, man.
Yeah, thanks, Seamus. So I mean, if anyone's listening interested in doing the actual boxing fitness certification itself, you can take that online. So boxingfitness.com. I also have a service where I help fast track people through that in 8 weeks. So if you're interested in working with me directly, you can hit me up on a direct message on Instagram. My Instagram is Glenn Holmes LA, Glenn with 2 N's, Holmes HOLMES, LA at the end. Send me a direct message. I'll get back to you on that. I can help you through the certification as well. If you're a coach and you want to work with me one-on-one, and we can get on a Zoom and I can give you all the information on that. As far as products, I just released a new video package called The Ultimate Guide to Boxing Fitness Coaching. And again, it's hands-on combinations and boxing stuff, but there's also some career growth guidance lectures in there and networking lectures and how to, kind of build your business a little bit too. That's just a huge video package. That's at boxingfitnesscoaching.com. So if anyone wants to check that out, you can check that out as well. And then the YouTube channel is the same as the Instagram, Glenn Holmes LA as well. Just tons and tons of boxing tutorials and coaching stuff on there.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Awesome.
There you guys heard it, man. There you guys heard it. For all the, to be quite honest, as a personal trainer for you guys listening to that, like if you're looking to have a more successful business, to get better results for clients and make it fun, maybe have an income, that's like Glenn's the guy. So go with one of those websites he just talked about. I'm serious. It's going to change your life. It did for me. I know it's done for a lot of coaches, and it's going to help in all these other things. So yeah, we appreciate that. Marcos.
Thanks, man.
Close us off. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything Glenn mentioned we'll have linked up in the show notes. So if you guys just take a peek down there, whether it's Spotify or YouTube, we will have it all there. So it's easier to access versus going back through the video or the usual. And again, like having fun with fitness, I feel like, this boxing element, I mean, jiu-jitsu, I mean, there's so many like modalities of it these days that is like just a whole new way of doing it. And who better to, kind of bring you up to speed with those things. I know I didn't get to ask the question about like your boxing background. I'm assuming that there's probably many years of that as well, which is why you've kind of identified in this lane. But we'll have to get you back for another session to talk more about like that personal story. So
yeah, I'd love to.
Thanks again. Yeah, we will.
Thanks, guys.
So, thanks again. We will go ahead and see you guys all on the next episode of the Macro Perspective, and be on the lookout for more from us. You're not going to want to miss it.